Hey there, I'm an animated Connor Walsh, which is kind of ironic because people say I'm pretty animated in real life. Anyway, welcome to Walsh Wednesday, my new/old podcast. Let me explain. Back in high school in 2013, I was pressured by some friends to do an impromptu solo acoustic performance in my cafeteria. Believe it or not, people really took to it. And it turned into a monthly musical series I did through the rest of high school. Who said High School Musical wasn't realistic? By college, I turned Walsh Wednesday into a web series, focusing on interviews surrounding community events, charities, and local entertainment in the Hudson Valley and Capital Regions of New York. Walsh Wednesday spawned several spin-offs such as the Walsh Wednesday Concert Series, Walsh Wednesday Spotlights, and Walsh Wednesday The Reflective Series before its hiatus in 2021. After that, I spent the last 3 years working in radio, honing my craft, conducting unbelievable interviews, traveling to fascinating places, attending mind-blowing events, and meeting some of my personal heroes. Now, with the help of some awesome people I've met along the way, I'm bringing Walsh Wednesday back bigger and better than ever. Let's stay curious, keep an open mind, and as always, I'm glad we get to spend some time. Welcome to Walsh Wednesday. On this week's episode, we're speaking with singer-songwriter-musician Cat Ridgeway and founder of James's Warriors, Donna Thomas. Special thanks to Impact PR and Communications, Teespring, Walsh Valuation, and IABLE Board 114. Typically, this would be the part of the intro where I would say, on with the show. But I have something really important to share. It's time for the Walsh Wednesday Fund Drive. After over 3 years of hiatus, Walsh Wednesday is back, and I'm looking to make this into a legitimate business, offering high-quality production and meaningful segments that you're going to love spending some time with again and again. Of course, thank you to everyone who's been here for the first 10 episodes of the revival. I feel truly blessed to have been able to speak with the first 24 guests, and I'm excited for what's to come. Starting a business is not cheap. By becoming a donor, you're investing in grassroots community outreach, arts and entertainment, up-and-coming creators, local businesses, regional and national charities, plus important causes. To help elevate Walsh Wednesday, I kindly encourage you to become a donor on our GoFundMe page. To donate, please visit gofundme.com/f/Walsh Wednesday. Our goal is to raise $10,000. It's hefty, I know, but I have a lot of faith in this, and I hope you do too. Not to mention, if you have a business or organization that wants to advertise through Walsh Wednesday and you want to sponsor a number of episodes, you can contact Connor at cmjwentertainment.com and write Walsh Wednesday Fund Drive in the subject of the email, and I'd be happy to work with you. The fund drive lasts until 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday, April 1st, which is, believe it or not, National Connors Day. That's not an April Fool's joke. That's a real thing. Look it up. Thank you to everybody who has helped elevate Walsh Wednesday this year, and thank you for your donation. Okay, now with all that being said, on with the show. Hey there, and welcome back to Walsh Wednesday. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and I got a great episode lined up for you guys. This is going to be really exciting because with us, we have a musician. Her album Sprinter is coming out on March 28th. The singles Sprinter and Epilogue off that album are out now. Great music videos. They're going to be linked in the description of this episode. She's been named the best singer-songwriter 3 times by Orlando Weekly and 2-time best rock act. Coming off playing the 30A Songwriters Festival, we have singer-songwriter musician Cat Ridgeway. Cat, how you doing?
I'm great, man. What an introduction. Thank you.
Hey, that's all you. It's like I'm just reading off cards. I'm reading off information. You're the one that's living it and doing it and experiencing it. And no, really happy to have you on here. Loving the vibes already. Love your energy. This is fantastic. And you're out in Colorado right now, so it's even earlier for you than it is for me, right?
It is, yeah. I'm drinking my coffee, but this is the best way to start a day right here. This is it.
Absolutely. And I also just got to say, it's always nice when you can record a Walsh Wednesday on an actual Wednesday. Not all of these are recorded on Wednesdays, but this one is. See, just adds to it.
We nailed it.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Julie for getting this all together, of course. Julie, fantastic. Good stuff.
Best.
But yes,
the best.
So, but Kat, let's talk about like coming off of this festival. You were playing 5 different dates for the 30A Songwriters Festival. This is a pretty big deal and everything. Is this your first time playing this festival?
This was actually, I believe, my 5th or 6th year.
Oh, wow. You're a veteran of this.
Well, yeah, but it's so funny because I was actually just talking about this the other day, but the first year I played it, I believe, was back in 2018, and absolutely nobody knew who I was. Nobody came to see me. I was in the round with other writers. Everyone who showed up came to see whoever I was playing with, not me.
Mm.
And this was the first year I actually had two solo shows, and the entire weekend, all of the sets were standing room only, and it was crazy.
Wow.
I was I was kind of beside myself just thinking about 2018 and how no one really seemed to care about what I was doing at that point in time, and how much growth there's been between now and then. So it was a really special weekend, and it was the first time I got to bring my full band up. So
Wow.
none of these people had ever gotten to see my band at 30A. It's very much a songwriters festival where people are playing solo acoustic, and it's storyteller vibes in all of the sets. I live for that. It's so much fun. But I was also like, they have a couple of bands play. I really want to bring my bandmates out here. So this year was finally the year, and it was awesome.
That's amazing, Kat. Seriously. And one thing I gotta say is, like, as you said, the growth right there. I know that feeling of playing out to nobody that
Yeah.
first time around, but to have standing room only and to be able to engage with everybody, that is so sick. So
It was awesome.
walk us through the festival weekend. Walk us through these dates. What did you experience between your own shows and working with other musicians? And I just got to say, one of the big inspirations of me doing interviews is like VH1 storytellers, MTV Unplugged,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I am
That's
so on vein with this.
yes, that is the vibe. So those are the types of shows that you're going to see pretty much all weekend at 30A. They do have a main stage where it's more full band stuff. Like Melissa Etheridge was headlining this year, so was Amos Lee.
Oh my
Um,
God, both of those,
yeah,
two of my favorites. Amos Lee, I've
killer.
seen like three times now. I love that
Me
guy.
too. You know, and
Have
it's
you?
so random because the universe wanted me to see Amos Lee about 2 years ago because back to back I had people give me tickets to the same tour, and
Really?
yeah, and I've always been I'm a big Amos Lee fan, but like still on the casual side, like where I was
Okay.
like, oh, I'd love to go to that show, but I think I had something happening and I didn't get tickets. At the last second I was free and I was like, man, I really would have liked to go to this. And one of my friends called me up, hey dude, I picked up a gig. Do you want these tickets? I was like, yeah. So I go to the show. He blew my mind. He's one of the best live vocalists I've ever seen.
Yes.
And then 2 days later, a friend of mine who worked at a venue up in Atlanta calls me and he goes, "Hey, so Amos Lee is playing with the Atlanta Symphony. Do you want tickets? Because I can do that." And I was like,
Wow.
"Yeah," and I was like, "That's a totally different show. I would love to see him back to back." So,
The
yeah,
world was
dressed
really
up.
pushing him on you.
Yeah, I know, and I was just like, "Okay, cool. I guess
Yeah.
there's something I need to experience here." And it was awesome. He's
It's
brilliant.
He is brilliant. It's funny because I think the first time I saw him too was 2 years ago. It was either 2 or 3 years ago. I've been a fan for a while, but 2 or 3 years ago. So we probably saw him for the first time
Yeah.
on the same tour, more than likely.
Yeah. The thing that stuck out to me the most, especially at the Orlando show, was he had a full band. He had, I want to say, 7 or 8 people up on that stage with him. But the dynamic range came down to almost silence with an 8 piece band on stage. That is, oh, I live for that. That is control. That is craft.
Yeah.
That is intentionality. Having space for people to do a little thing, and actually hear the nuance in what they're doing is insane. That was so cool.
Yeah. I
I
remember he
That was
did that with,
probably the main takeaway for me.
I feel like I'm thinking the same songs you are, like Flower, he did that with violin, and El
Mhm.
Camino, where it's just like you could hear a pin drop in the
Yeah,
concert. Big
yeah,
time.
yes, but while the band is still playing, like
Yes.
that's it's like, oh man, it was crazy. Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, you asked about 30A.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
the festival. No, it's all good. But Amos Lee was at the festival. We're
Yeah, he was at the festival.
geeking about that. So yeah,
Yeah,
you're
just
good.
geeking. It's cool. But so yeah, so we had a lot of like the storyteller type sessions, a lot of those types of shows. This year was really cool. Like I was running 90 to nothing every day, and I felt like I remember turning to my mom at one point and thinking like, this is how you festival. And I was excited because I had a show, at least one show every day. There was one day I had two rounds back to back. That in it on its own is amazing. So thank you to the 38 organizers for putting me in that much. But when I wasn't on stage, I was catching a lot of my friends, so I was able to link up with my buddy Abe Partridge. If you're familiar with his work, he is a
Sounds familiar.
former Baptist preacher who turned into a singer-songwriter, almost like Tom Waits, gravelly kind of voice, but then also paints these crazy folk art pieces.
Huh.
He's amazing, and his stage banter persona is amazing. It's so funny, but oddly, very poetically profound at the same time if you're really paying attention, you know?
Mm.
Um, he's incredible. So I was able to link up with him and see him with the band. He's actually working with the drummer from Sonic Youth right now for his new record, so
Ooh,
that's super
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, and I got to meet him as well, which
Nice.
was crazy for me because I'm a huge 90s alt nut. So that was
Yes.
really, really cool. Um, so Livingston Taylor, James Taylor's brother,
I've worked
has
with him.
actually,
So great.
yeah, okay, so you already know. Um,
Yes.
but
Ugh.
he plays this festival every year, and a couple of years ago, he and I connected, and which actually that's kind of funny. I'll go back and tell you how that happened, but
Please
uh,
do. Yeah.
yeah. So he and I connected after playing a couple of festivals together and stuff. But at 30A, we met, I think, 2 years ago, and he came to one of my sets. And then he kind of took me on as a mentor, kind of out of nowhere.
Wow.
And he actually was one of the people, the only person really, who helped me whittle away some of the lyric in Sprinter. So he was
Really?
an amazing springboard to have during that process because I knew I had way too many melodic ideas that I needed to pare down and streamline. And sometimes when you're the one coming up with all of the different ideas, being the one to also trim the fat is really hard. You have to have an objective opinion from outside. And that was Liv for me. But he came to two
Wow.
of my
What
sets.
a legend.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. He is amazing. But he came to two of my sets totally unprompted, and I was actually so shocked to see him, especially at the first one. I had just been talking about him on stage, and I didn't even know that he was out in the crowd. And afterward, he came over and said, "Hey," and I was like, "Oh my God, hi!" And he gave me critiques on my performances and stuff, and we talked a lot about songwriting and the craft and all of that good stuff. And yeah, it's really, really cool to be able to have those people to grow within the art form with people who have taken the time to really study it and understand it and live it and do it and see what works. And yeah, so it was really, really cool to see him. And I thought it was just unbelievably kind for him to come to not one, but two shows
Yeah.
on his own. So that
That
was
is
amazing.
cool.
Yeah. Um, I also ran into Brett Dennen, who I actually opened for at the Bearsville Theater like 2 years ago.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
and it was so funny. I didn't know it was
Love
him.
Bearsville. Love Bearsville. Wait, you didn't
Oh.
know it was him? Like,
No, which he is like such a recognizable person. But what happened was I went to go see Chuck Prophet with and his Cumbia shoes, which is a really cool Americana like cumbia fusion project. Anyway, there was a guy on a bike because it was an outdoor stage just like leaning against a pole watching, and I was like, man, that dude's got it figured out, like going stage to stage on a bike. So I just went over to give him a fist bump and be like, good for you, you know?
and it
And
was
when I did, he looked over at me and it was Brett Dennen, and I was like, oh my God. And then I realized like, wow, you are so tall because he was sitting on the bike. I couldn't, you kind of miss the effect of how tall he is. And I'm super short. I'm 5'2". Brett
mm,
is over a foot taller than me. Um, so anyway, so he's like, "Oh, hey." And so we caught up. That was really fun. And yeah, this year it was so fun. Like I knew so many more people than I did when I first started playing it. I got to do a podcast filming session thing in between a couple of my sets on one day, and just caught up with a lot of cool people. It was awesome. Like
nice.
I feel like that's like how a festival should be. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like that was like I told my mom like we're festivaling the right way this year. It's awesome.
that's beautiful. It just goes to show the evolution of just like staying to it and working and grinding and continuously moving forward with it all. I love that. Before we move on, I'll share with you my Livingston Taylor story. Um, so I went to the
Yes,
College of
please
St.
do.
Yeah. So I went to the College of St. Rose up in Albany. and I worked for the Masry Center for Performing Arts, and they had these phenomenal premiere performances. So the very first gig I ever did there was Livingston Taylor, and I'm a huge James Taylor fan. And knowing that, he wrote songs with James, and he's got a beautiful career of his own, it's like, holy cow. And he was playing with the symphony during this. So it's like, this is cool. I did part of the live sound, and then I also did some of the ushering. I kind of lived in the both worlds.
Yeah.
And I just finished ushering. I needed to go back to the sound booth. I had a question. And in the sound booth, here he is talking to all the other interns. And he's just talking about songwriting and life. And my one friend, JB, just like looks at me, doesn't say a word, just like with their eyes, just goes, sit down. It's just with their eyes. And I'm like, and I just listen. And he took pictures with us all before the show. And like,
So awesome.
for the 15 minutes that we just had him all to ourselves. And again, he just popped in himself. He was just like, oh, hi, who are you guys? That was just him. He just popped in and just gave us these wonderful 15 minutes on music, life, and philosophy. It was like, I couldn't have asked for a better first show at this job, honestly.
That's almost exactly the same way we met.
Really?
Yeah, he goes into such professor mode because
Yes.
he is a professor, but
Yep.
like it's just in his DNA. Like there's no way he could ever not be like that.
No, absolutely not. And he had this
Yeah.
beautiful red bow tie, so he felt very like Bill Nye the Science Guy professor-esque.
Yes.
So he gave those vibes the entire time.
Yes.
Nope, I
Yeah,
remember
no,
that.
it was hilarious to me. So a couple years ago, the same tour where I went up to Woodstock and played with Brett and everything,
Yeah.
we on the way up, we played the Philadelphia Folk Fest. And
Oh,
Liv
fantastic.
was yeah, it was awesome. And Liv was on the bill that year. So we were in the parking lot and our bassist realized that Liv was Liv and he was like, "Oh my God, it's Livingston Taylor." He was putting his guitar back into his car. We were at our little van and our bassist is like, "Liv, hi, you did great." And Liv's like, "Thank you, thank you." And then he just got in his car and went away. I was like, "Oh, that was cool." So fast forward to the next year at 30A, and he and I ended up at Artist Check-In at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And so I like totally stretched the truth. I was just like, "Hey, Liv, like, you and I met at Philly Folk Fest. We were on the same bill," which this is like so funny to me now. Um, and he was so funny. He's so nice. He goes, "Oh, yes, I remember. I remember." And I was like, "Cool." And so we started talking, and I was like, "Hey, I'd love to invite you to a set." And then he did come to the set.
Wow.
And the guy that I was in the round with, he and I connected the night before we played together. Because if you're ever able to have vibes with the person you're going to share the stage with ahead of time, it's always better that way. So
Absolutely.
we were like, "Hey, why don't we both go see Liv tonight?" So we met up at the show, and afterward, I just went over to say hey, and I was like, "Hey, this is who I'm in the round with tomorrow." And he was like, "Oh, sit down. Let's talk music." And like, and he gave us a private lecture for probably 30 minutes about the art of performance and storytelling all the way down to like diction and articulation in the way you speak and the way you sing lyrics so people can understand what you're saying. And one thing that I will never forget, he said, "Make your audience feel smart. If they can't understand words, if
Mm,
your lyric doesn't make enough sense, if your story doesn't tie into the song well enough, they're not gonna get it." And he was like,
wow.
"Those are the three easiest things you can change about what you are doing, specifically you." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And yeah, I mean, no one has made me take agency on stage like Liv has with the things he's shown me. So yeah, but it's just so funny because I think whenever he shows up to places, if he has the opportunity to talk about stuff in that way, he gets really excited. So I'm really
I
glad
love
you
that.
experienced
I
that.
have. Here, before we get onto your music, because that's what we actually are here for,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it at all. Baby Connor and everything. Look at him.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, wow, he does look very professorly with that tie.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? No, but again, fantastic opportunity. I love the connections that we have right now. This is insane. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the album that you have coming out March 28th, Sprinter.
Yeah.
I've listened to and I've watched the music videos for Epilogue and Sprinter. Let's just go in chronological order.
Yeah.
Epilogue came out. You put that out in October. Really
Yes.
fun music video and everything. It's got this Americana but punk rock kind of vibes all at the same time. I just got to ask though, why start off with a song called Epilogue, which is
Yeah.
the ending? Why start with the end?
So I thought it was kind of just funny, personally, but also I thought Epilogue was gonna be the last track on the record. I had kind of sort of I was in the middle of finishing writing it when we were working on it. I didn't think it was gonna make the record, but as I was writing it, it was in my head that it was gonna be the last song. So I was kind of writing it with that intention. So as we got everything ironed out, I realized, oh dang, actually, I think this other song makes more sense to end the record because it just kind of hit a different place emotionally,
Oh,
but
interesting.
also from a completely technical standpoint. Yeah. But from a totally technical standpoint, when you're making a vinyl record, you want your quiet songs to be the last songs on either side of the album because the physics of how the waveforms are pressed into the wax, um, the high frequencies will get distorted if it's too loud because the inside of the record is spinning slower than the outside is. So the way the needle reads it, it changes things. So you need to have a quiet song usually as the last track. And I was like, well, that's definitely not Epilogue. So, um, but then when everyone was listening to the tracks, Epilogue was pretty quickly picked as the first song to be a first single, and I was like, all right. And I was like, well, the end is just the beginning, I guess. So like this is funny because it's like
Yeah.
that's where the record left me, like lyrically as a writer. So I was like, this is kind of cool actually to start here. But yeah, that's pretty much how that happened.
It's beautifully ironic and I
I
love
know,
it.
right?
Yeah. It's so good. And I think it just goes to show you how an ending really is a beginning for something else. So,
Hmm.
whether that's intentional or not, I love what the messages it sends out. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So then let's talk about the title track off of this album, Sprinter. We were talking about this a little bit before we officially got on the mic and everything, but I don't mean to
Yeah.
dredge up hard feelings or anything, but I totally understand what it's like when you lose somebody really close
Yeah.
to you, especially really suddenly. I really related to this song. I feel like a lot of other people are going to be able to relate to this song because of that. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about the experience behind Sprinter?
Yeah, when I was in college, I had a roommate that I just had no idea that she was struggling at all. And I got the news that she lost her battle with mental health a couple years after I hadn't seen her in a while. And I was just so surprised. And I felt like everybody else in my life who knew her and was in the friend group that we were a part of was also super surprised. And I was like, how did we all miss this?
Hmm.
And so that was, I kind of just started retracing my steps and I just started writing all of the signs that I feel like people would miss, whether or not they actually pertain to her specifically, just the things that seem like so normal every day, just things that people forget to do or just don't follow through on, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and
The
so
things
that
that slip
was,
through the cracks, right?
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, that was where the song came from, but that was me digging the deepest I think I ever had when I started writing that lyric. And up until this record, most of the songs I've put out have been more like the band and I coined it just vibe pieces where they were just intended to be like fun songs to play live that people enjoyed playing live, where it was kind of more of a means of escapism. And I felt a huge shift since we started playing this song live, and I've talked about where it came from and the connection that it has brought into my life from people who really do resonate with it is unbelievable. And it's the first time I really do feel like, oh dang, I might have made something that's gonna like help somebody or like change somebody's thoughts around
Wow.
this. And it's been really wild and one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced as a writer.
Wow. That really is impressive. And, you know, looking back at what we were talking about with your 2018 self, with going to 30A and
Yeah.
everything. Could you have imagined, or could your 2018 self imagine the lengths that you've been able to go to as a songwriter and a person in your growth?
I want to say yes. I just don't think I would have understood how much effort it was gonna really take.
Mm,
You have to really dig deep to find your own voice and your own artistry for yourself. Um, some people do get there just right off the bat because there's not as much noise around them. I was really lucky to have a lot of support coming up in the music world, like as a kid. And it's a double-edged sword because while you have a ton of support, you also have a lot of opinions about your own work as you're starting to try to figure it out for yourself. And so a lot of me making this record was um, undoing certain perceptions of what I thought my writing should be or the things that I thought my record should include for other people. This was the record. I was like, nope, I'm making this one more for me. And then the people who get it. And the ones who don't, you know, there are a million other records out there.
yeah. And I find it very interesting because here's this record that you are saying that you're writing for you,
Hmm.
but already with the title track Sprinter, you're getting all the people who are resonating with it and who are getting
Yeah,
it. And I
it's
think,
been crazy.
yeah, the authenticity of it all really just goes to show you how, like, when you are truly yourself, other
Hmm.
people will latch onto that and find themselves within that as well. I think that
Yeah,
is so deep and so powerful.
it is. And it's one of those things, it sounds so trite when you say like, oh, just be yourself and everything will happen. But it's like that is so hard
It
when
is.
you're an artist. That is so hard. And sometimes you don't even know what being yourself is because you haven't tried on enough clothes, you know?
Yes.
And like you gotta you write a song and maybe yeah you could do the production this way where it's a punk song, maybe over here it's a folk song, maybe over here it's reggae, and then it's like, well, which one of those is you,
Yeah.
and what feels the most right to you. And sometimes it takes a really long time to find that. I think is it Louis Armstrong who has the quote like, man, sometimes it takes a long time to sound like yourself,
I
or like
believe so. That
play
does
like
sound
yourself.
right. Yeah.
Whatever that quote is, it's like that should be. I need to get that tattooed.
No, you're right though. You're absolutely right. As a musician myself, the last album I put out, I was talking to some friends about it and how it was a mix of so many different genres from like very musical theater to punk to country to Americana. And my friends were asking, it's like, how are you going to market this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's just me. But like now coming around next time writing, I feel like I have a very solid base, but you got to experiment and you got to have fun with it to find like whatever your voice is. Oh no, I'm getting the red lines on the side again. Did I lose you?
Yeah.
We're almost back. We're all okay. Now we're back.
Yee.
Oh, I gotta love
We're
Wi-Fi
back.
sometimes. Yes. Hello.
And so we're back from outer space.
Just walking about here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that. All right, sorry.
There's nothing I appreciate more than someone who will commit to a bit. Thank you.
Oh, that's me 100% of the way.
Oh, me too.
100%. Oh my God. Uh, you've probably never seen this movie, but it stars Keanu Reeves in the early 2000s. It's called The Replacements. It's about a football team the NFL goes on strike. They bring in all these replacement players. Keanu Reeves is the replacement quarterback. They all get
Okay.
arrested for being in a bar fight. And one of the first ways that they have team synergy is by doing the electric slide to I Will Survive in Jail.
That's not where they get the dance scene in Good Burger. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I
The
do know what you're talking about.
oh.
I wonder if that was an inspiration.
I wonder if
I've
that's like
never
a
thought
like a
about that.
nod.
That is
Yeah.
interesting. I've never thought about that. I actually have met Keenan, by the way. Keenan Thompson. Cool guy. A lot of fun.
Stop.
Yeah. No, that
You know
was
what's really
fun.
fun?
What's that?
My brother went to this like 90s party thing in Dallas a couple years ago that Kel was hosting, and
Really?
he won like a rap lyric battle thing. Like you had to know the lyrics to all these rap songs from the 90s. And he won this like crazy pair of sneakers from Kel. And so there's a picture floating around on the internet of my brother like with these shoes with Kel, and he's just like,
That's
let
amazing.
me see if I can find this for you.
I love it. It's like we're having all these degrees of separation that we have. It's
I
kind of
know.
insane. You got Kel on your side, I got Keenan on my
I
side.
know.
It's like, no, it was so random. It wasn't even for work. I just randomly met him at Hunter Mountain during the summer at a Celtic festival of all
That's
places.
hilarious.
He
At a
was,
Celtic festival?
yeah, well, he
What
was
was
at,
Keenan doing at a Celtic festival?
I know, it's so random. Well, it was at Hunter Mountain Resort, and the Celtic Festival was going on, but he was just on vacation at the resort in general, just kind of parallel to everything.
Yeah.
And he was walking around, it's like, oh, I'm on vacation, I'm here, I might as well check out whatever this is.
Oh, true.
And
Okay.
we're on the top of the mountain looking at the zip line, and just like right behind me, I hear, damn, that's some man. And I turned around, I was like, are you Keenan Thompson? It was
Yes.
insane. He was like, yes, yes, I am. Hey, that's fantastic.
That's so funny. But yeah,
I
my brother
love
was
that.
extremely proud of that.
As he should be. As he
Yeah.
should be. That's fantastic.
It's so
Oh
funny.
my God. So, so good. We have gone on so
Yeah.
many tangents on this
I
episode,
know,
but
I'm
I love
sorry.
it. No, don't apologize. It makes for the best content, honestly. But I want, I'm sorry, I'm losing it now. Um, This is so, so good. Uh, but no, for your album Sprinter, it's coming out at the end of the month, March
Yes.
28th, and everything. We've talked about how this is authentic to you, it's genuine, how people are already like feeling that title track and everything. Is there
Mhm.
anything in particular about like the process of the album or some of the other songs that you want to let people know about?
Actually, yeah. I think this is really cool. So, how I was saying, I felt like there was a better song to end the album with. The last song on the record is called Posture. And what I think is really neat about it is I'm actually duetting with myself from 10 years ago.
Oh,
So, it
explain.
was,
That's insane.
yeah,
Okay.
it was really, really cool. So, I've been writing for forever. And I had this little collection of demos that I kind of kept tucked away in a separate folder that I was like, there's something here, even though it's really old. Like, there's something cool about these. One of them was the song Posture. And at the time, it was just the little guitar riff and then the I've been working on my posture outro part.
Okay.
And I showed it to Mike when we were in the studio, my co producer. And I was like, I've always felt really oddly connected to this one. I don't know. I don't even know what this means. Like, I just think the line I've been working on my posture is cool. And he
Hmm.
was like, no, this is awesome. And I was fully expecting us to listen to this and rebuild it element by element. So I was going to re-record the guitar, re-record the vocal, whatever. And he just goes, no, no, this vibes. Import
Wow.
that, and then we're going to add to it. And I was like, wait, what? So I was like, but there's like little mistakes on it. And he goes, exactly. And I
Hmm.
was like, okay. So we import it. He cut up the guitar part and pasted it a bunch of times so that it was longer. And or I wrote from scratch all of the verse lyrics that led up to the line, I've been working on my posture. And so all the vocals that were there from 10 years ago are still on the track. And then we tracked me currently, either bolstering some of the harmonies to make them a little bit bigger or more complex, and then I also doubled some of the vocals at the end. And so it just like, it totally came full circle. And it's one of those songs that like I know it's never probably gonna hit listeners as hard as it hits me because that was such a personal journey, but it's like I literally cried the first time I heard that fully done. Um because it felt like such a full circle moment of coming back to myself sonically, because I was like, this is something I thought sounded cool 10 years ago and I still think it sounds cool, and we got it to sound really cool when we put time into it. And I'm making the music I want to make and that I always wanted to make, and like I'm meeting myself now where I always knew I was, if that makes
Wow.
sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I just chills down my spine right now. That's
yeah,
really, really awesome. And wow, I can't wait to check that out. I'm excited to hear that, especially
thank
knowing the
you.
backstory behind it. That is fantastic. Again, this is with Cat Ridgway's album Sprinter coming out March 28th. I don't think there's any better way that we could have wrapped that up or anything, but I will conclude with this. Is there any last little nugget that you want to share with our listening audience right now, whether it be about music, about life, about anything we talked about? Any
Mm.
last little nugget you would like to share?
Mm. Oh, that's hard. Um,
That's the one that typically gets people.
yeah, I mean, I'll leave you with this because I told myself this a lot while I was making this record. If you think it's cool, it's cool.
Amen. That's fantastic. That's definitely how we're ending this. Cat Ridgway, make sure that you check out her album Sprinter coming out March 28th. All the links in the description of this episode. We'll have all the pre-saves. We'll have all the links to the music videos. Definitely check her out. Cat, I've had so much fun on this episode. Thank you so much for being here on Walsh Wednesday.
Man, likewise. Thank you. This was fun.
Absolutely. I'm Connor.
I'm Kat.
And as always, we're glad we got to.
Spend some time.
Nice.
Pew, 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 pew.
I love it. Hey there, I'm the ad ref, and I'm calling a timeout on today's episode to tell you about our sponsors. First of all, let's throw it to Philomena in the booth. Philomena?
Thanks, Connor. I'm Philomena Finelli, CEO of Impact PR and Communications and a media maven, which is a fancy way of saying that my team and I help companies get in the news, transform leaders into thought leaders, and cut through the clutter with messaging that matters. And we do it all with a smile. Our agency was named the Woman-Owned Small Business of the Year for 2024 by the Metro New York District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and we received the Gold Stevie Award for Women-Run Workplace of the Year, which is an international recognition. But it's not about the awards, it's about the personal interactions. We at Impact PR and Communications pride ourselves on crafting meaningful, results-driven public relations campaigns that are tailored to meet and exceed our clients' goals. If you want to learn more and talk to my team and I, visit prwithimpact.com and let us know that you found out about us from Walsh Wednesday. Now back to you, Ad Ref.
Thanks, Philomena. Now it's time to throw it over to a very handsome and, might I say, stylish young man. The Walsh Wednesday merch store is officially open. Now you can have my face on your body. That didn't come out right. When you visit the Walsh Wednesday merch store, you can select from hats, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, and more. By purchasing some Walsh Wednesday merchandise, you're not only supporting this program, but you're also supporting the local arts and organizations that are featured. Just visit cmjwentertainment.com/shop-merch and use promo code REVIVAL for 20% off. All links are in the description. I decided to work with Teespring for my merch store because, well, I was already buying from them. They have comfortable and durable products, and their printing is clear and reliable. One of my favorite hoodies is from my friend's Teespring collection, Offbeat Threads. To learn how to start your own online collection, visit teespring.com. And of course, I hope you get to spend some time at the Walsh Wednesday merch store. Thanks, guys. All right, that's enough of me. Time to get the show back on the road. Hey there, and welcome back to Walsh Wednesday. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and I am so excited to be presenting this episode. She's become a near and dear friend over the last couple of years now. We worked together with the radio station, and now we're having her on Walsh Wednesday, making her Walsh Wednesday debut. She's got her own podcast that we're going to be promoting, along with a lot of other great and important things that are helping out the community here in the Hudson Valley, New York, and beyond. So with us today, we have the founder of James's Warriors, Donna Thomas. Donna, how are you?
Connor, how are you? So happy to see you, even though it's virtually.
I know,
And
but great to see you.
I love it. And congratulations on your new show. I am so happy for you. I've seen a couple. You really are bringing on some heavy hitters. I'm loving it. I
I'm
mean,
trying.
big Pinky fan here, so I caught that episode, and I love all. I love all that you're doing, and always grateful to see you. And you've helped us out with our music fest, and so definitely big love for you, Connor. Best wishes on this show. I know it's going to be fabulous.
I appreciate that, Donna, and I will pass that along to Bernie. Let him know that Donna Thomas from the James's Warriors is rooting him on and everything.
Oh, yes.
But this episode isn't about Bernie Williams. This is about you. This is about James's Warriors. And thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure working with you in different capacities over the last couple of years. And I got to say as well, congratulations on your podcast, the No One Walks Alone podcast. You guys, at least of us recording right now, you are 5 episodes in. It's a great listen. I am one that is huge on mindfulness, mental health, and promoting each and every one of those things and everything that it goes with it. And I think it's just important for a lot of people to listen to, whether they're from the Hudson Valley or beyond. There's something that everybody can get out of it. Before we get into the podcast, though, obviously we've talked about what James's Warriors is on other programs, but this is your first time on Walsh Wednesday. So for those who are unfamiliar with James's Warriors, can you explain what exactly it is and what it's doing for the community?
Absolutely. So James's Warriors is a nonprofit organization founded by myself and a couple of dear friends. What we do is we go into schools, colleges, community-based programs, and we are basically a suicide prevention and mental health awareness program. And how this started was my son, James Thomas, died by suicide in October of 2018. Obviously, I mean, how do you describe it? Devastating. But through learning so many different things, like after James died, and I think with a child especially, but anything traumatic, right? You start to learn more about yourself. You have to learn about how to handle your own grief and anxiety, depression. And so I began this journey about learning, and which has changed my whole life, how I view the world, right? I try, I have to work on it, not to let the big stuff get me. And like you said, through yoga, meditation, journaling, gratitude, diet, nutrition, drinking water. People think these things seem so simple, but once you have like a routine, I'm going to say a routine, it helps to ground you, being out in nature. And so part of our program, which we have Dr. Jamie Arnoff, who is our clinical psychologist. So she handles basically the clinical side to the program. And I share my personal story with James about James. I talk about, as sometimes we do parent conferences or presentations where I tell parents the things that I miss, because there's so many myths about what a depressed person looks like, or somebody who has suicidal ideation, right? And on paper, my son looked great. And then for schools, we do superintendent conference days for certain schools to teach staff, like it's really important how we speak to our students and our children, because we don't know what's going on in their brain. And sometimes our language to other people confirm those negative thoughts that they think about themselves. And then we talk to the students to tell them, like, hey, listen, you can still have a beautiful life, even though you have a mental health diagnosis. And you can be a part of your treatment by learning things about exercise, nutrition, grounding yourself, and being able to speak about it. And so that's what James's Warriors does. Our mission is to educate the community about mental health, about strategies, resources. And it's all based on love for my son, James, who, suicide is totally 100% preventable. Like if we follow certain things, it's absolutely preventable. And I wish my son knew that he didn't have to end his pain that way, that there were other choices. So that's what we do.
No, absolutely. And what a painful origin, but beautiful things that you guys are doing in the community. Another things I have to say congratulations with is happy 5-year anniversary coming up. You're having your 5-year anniversary in March. You guys have been benefiting the community and beyond since that point. And 5 years, that is a great milestone. So congratulations on that. And not just that, besides the fact that you guys are going to schools, you're inspiring people of all ages. Honestly, when we met that first time, you were one of the big reasons why I went into therapy in the first place, to really get a handle on my mental health, because I had just lost a friend like a month or two prior, and I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was in a low spot. And I just remember it was you, and then the next day was Be a Friend Project, and just the double whammy
of speaking with you guys. It's like, I get it. I'll work on my mental health.
It's the universe calling.
Exactly. And you know what? I am so glad that I've been working with you guys since then. I'm so glad that you were able to inspire me. I know that you guys have been able to inspire so many other people. So that being said, 5 years, with celebrating 5 years, what do you feel like you've gotten the most out of it in these 5 years, or things that you've seen or have developed that you're proud of over these 5 years?
So 5 years, right? For us, huge milestone, because basically, we started this program during COVID, right? I had extra time and I was like, I woke up one day and I was like, I'm going to make a program. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, I felt a calling. And so, you tell people and they just look at you like, okay, right? But here we are 5 years later. The basis is still the same. Obviously, on any journey or any practice that you start, you look at things that you have to change. And so, board members change, but like our original board members were the ones who helped me get this off the ground. We have different board members now. Some original, we have a couple OGs like Dawn Cavazzini, and the DeMarco, Alexa and Erica, and of course, Dr. Jamie, but we have shifts in different people. And so the program changes a little bit in the sense that we wanted to make it simple and digestible to kids, to understand about their mental health. And so you see growth in that, right? We try to keep up with the studies. We try to get feedback from the students to say, hey, what did you relate to? What's not relatable? The other thing is getting out into the community. We are so fortunate because we have so many people who help us and raise money for us. The Hudson Valley, the music people, and you know who I mean, I have the utmost respect. It's a constant, caring community that helps us all the time. And so with that, people don't realize too, like the 5 years is great, but you know what the 5 years brings? It brings unity in the community. And people may not realize, like when we have these events and we see these bands and people are celebrating, right? It helps those who are struggling to know that there are people who care, really truly care, because our foundation is based off of donations, right? We go in, we make coping kits for the kids. We can't do that without the community and them bringing us to their school boards and saying, yes, we want James's Warriors. We want to give them, like yesterday we were at Orchard View Alternative High School in Wappingers, and that principal there, Laura DiStefano, she's amazing. Like, she's like, how long do you want? 2 hours? Yes. This way we're spending time with these students in a safe environment, number one, and it's in an environment that they're able to speak, and it's so amazing. So that's the difference between 5 years, right? 5 years ago, we're begging people to let us in, and now we're booking people, right? So there's that difference. The podcast, we were lucky to get a grant from Dutchess County, and the podcast allows us, hopefully, I mean, obviously we're new. And so anybody listening, I do think the conversations are fabulous. They're truthful. We don't sugarcoat things. We have the fabulous John Burton, who also has his own podcast, who is co-hosting with us and really teaching me so much. And Dawn Cavazzini, and we had David Henry on, who is kind of coming in and out with nutrition and exercise. And so I feel like the podcast is just another avenue, because even on our social media, sometimes I discuss things that are pretty heavy, but they're in paragraph forms, right? So this allows us to talk a little bit deeper about those things. Dawn and I just did a podcast with David and John about menopause, right? And people are like, what are you doing about, why are you guys talking about menopause? We have broadened our horizons because, and if you listen to it, right, and you should listen as a woman and as a male, so you know what your partner might be going through, but there are a lot of deficits in the brain when this happens, and there's depression and anxiety and things of that sort. So our podcasts are really great because it brings up those real things that are happening in people's lives, not just suicidal ideation, right? So we're hoping that that helps other people to feel comfortable, not to feel alone in what they're going through. And I think that's the whole point. of us and people like you, right? You wanted to teach people like, you don't have to be alone. We get you. We want to be there for you. And that's our mission in Teams as Warriors, to educate. And, like our policy, no one walks alone, and nobody should have to. It just shouldn't be that way. No judgment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, that goes along with the motto for Walsh Wednesday: stay curious, keep an open mind, and as always, spend some time.
Yes.
And 100%. And I love all of that. And how you were saying you want to be able to put these things into a digestible form for the students, listeners, people of any age, really. What is more digestible than, being able to have a podcast these days? It's like one of the biggest mediums. So to be able to build that and to have these conversations, God, I can only imagine John on a conversation about menopause. I'm going, Jesus.
I'm going to tell you something. Here's the great thing about the podcast. This is the feedback that I'm getting, is that some of the younger people that, in their 20s, they're like, Donna, we like the podcast because you're giving information. It is these hard topics, but there's also some humor in it, right? We are not above making fun of each other. And poor Dawn Cavazzini usually gets the brunt of it. Like John and I pick on her, saying like, if she was here, she would be like growling at us or whatever. Cause she is like, Dawn on in our organization is the organizer, in the sense like she keeps like a strong hand on things, right? Because she needs to, because I'm flighty. I'm like, what, whatever, it's fine. And she's like, no, this is what needs to be done. So John and I always take that opportunity to kind of give her a little sass. So I think that makes it lighter. Like, we're talking about tough things, but just having that humor and that interaction, because similar to you, John and I became really good friends because he helped us out. We were on his podcast and he helped us out with the Music Fest. And if you ever see some of our response on Facebook, we're like, we're going to do a Netflix documentary behind the scenes. It's just going to really be behind the scenes, because we have so much fun talking to each other and connecting with each other about what's going on in our lives, on serious moments and on moments that we can kind of be silly, like what this looks like at home, right? When things are not going well. Like sometimes I get on the podcast, they're all nicely dressed, and I look like, what happened, right? Because I'm like, we don't do video. I can look like this, John. Don't make fun of me.
See, that's what I really, really miss about radio, was the fact that I could show up, roll out of bed, and not have to worry about how I look and everything. A lot of these early episodes of Walsh Wednesday, you can tell I'm having issues with this video thing. I'm having issues with the whole visual part of it, but I want to go back to radio. No, I'm still very blessed about all this. And of course, with John, gotta say, we said that he has another podcast that's the Home From Here podcast.
Yes.
The Lifted project he works on, which you are affiliated with, and we'll get into that shortly. I've been on his show. He's been on my shows for the radio, and I think his episode of Walsh Wednesday is going to be airing after this. I have to think about the schedule but he will be here shortly.
Yay.
But yes, John's fantastic, and he's great that way. And, he's always been big about promoting mental health. He's talked about his mental health journey very candidly, and he's gone through some crazy times. So the fact that he was able to go through that, and now trying to use his platform to help others, help you guys now, and to build upon this, I think it's great. And also, he's got a great sense of humor. So that's why I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be interesting to hear certain of these topics. You also mentioned before we got on the mic, John loves me sometimes when it comes to the editing. You want to talk about like the behind the scenes in that way?
Well, you know what? Here's the funny part, right? When I asked John if he would like to be on our board, because we wanted a bigger male influence, right? And as you said, his story is amazing. That's, I think, in our second podcast, our second episode, we talked to him about that. And he's so good with conversation, right? He's great. But he also does our editing. And I'm all like, John, you don't have to really worry about that. I don't really care. I want like all truthfulness. But you need to clean up stuff. This poor guy, we had this episode with Dave Henry, and Dave Henry, as you know, like you keep a timer on things, like the last 5 minutes that the podcast, we have 5 minutes left. he starts dropping stuff about mental health. He was a good friend of my son, James, and like his depression and all of this and how James helped him. And I was like, and John and I are both looking at each other. Oh my God, we have 5 minutes. So we finished that podcast and I'm like, John, we got to have him back. So excited, right? Part 2, right? You needed a part 2. Well, when I tell you the tech at my house, I had the cable company or whoever out the day before, it wasn't working. It's dropping, I'm popping back on. Then I can't hear them and I'm talking over everybody. It was horrific. So I'm like, John, we really have to get that part 2. And he's all like, Donna, this is a lot of work. Like, this is not like, he's like, it has to be cohesive. Like, you can't just, I'm like, just mute me, John. I don't care. Make sure David stuff, like, he is. So I feel like, we talk about everything like between us, and even David Henry, the first time he's on the podcast, he goes, the after party is like really good, right? We share a lot of stuff about, how to do things and what we want things to look like. But again, with community, and just like I'm sure with yourself, you have people like John Burton is one of those people who is pulling us up, James's Warriors, right? Like, we're on a different area, because we're in schools and stuff like that. But he has the patience of a saint, truly, because he's dealing with Dawn and I. Like, I'm like, John, we're going to do a menopause show. And he's like, ah.
I can see that. I can see him reacting like that.
Yeah, but he does it. This is what I'm saying. Like, this is why people need to realize that once you come into your own, regardless of your tragedies, things that you had to deal with, like maybe you had to change all your friends, right? Because you can't use drugs and alcohol anymore to hide those emotions. And maybe something that you realize with your mental health, that you need to be with people who have the same mindset, right? And growth. When you get to that point, and that's why it's so important to be part of your treatment, your diagnosis, yeah, you get that, but to bring about that well-being of the well-rounded person, you will find people who genuinely want to help you, like John, like you, right? Having us on and helping us get our message out. Like, we can't do that without great people. And James's Warriors, we have really great people who are supporting us and pulling us up, pushing us to the next level. And how grateful. I mean, I'm always so grateful. So like John, he's really, I mean, he'll write a book one day and probably tell the world how we tortured him.
Oh my God, Donna, I love it. But of course, working with John, working with him on your podcast, the No One Walks Alone podcast, he's got Home From Here. He's also got the Lifted Project, which you are part of, talking about people lifting each other up and everything. That's exactly what it is all about. I was lucky enough to connect with John literally moments before the first Lifted Project. And he's like, hey, you come on board. And I was lucky enough to come on board with that. It was great. I'm going to be there this year. That's going to be happening in the beginning of April at the Rhinebeck Center for Performing Arts. Walk us through that. What you and John have been planning for this year's Lifted Project, because I know John wants to make it bigger and better than last year. We had like, wow, God, was it over like 50 musicians at the Dutchess County Airport? Yeah, Paula's Runway. We were doing that and we recorded this, and all the best musicians from the area were there to sing or perform. It was incredible. And now he's looking to try to make it even bigger. So Jesus. So Donna, tell us from your side what you guys are planning and looking at.
So number one, the funny thing, how we got the Lifted Project. So we were on John's show, Dawn and I, right? And he's telling us about the Lifted Project. And Dawn is like very funny. She's like, well, what, John, why aren't we one of the organizations? He's like, well, Dawn, this was already done. So I go, Dawn is threatening the host, like making sure that we are part of the Lifted Project. Fast forward, John is on our board now, and we're all working together and playing well in the sandbox. But it was very funny. Dawn's like, hey, why not? Dawn is like our trooper. She gets it done. So anyway, I am not organizing this. Let me be clear. John is organizing this with a couple of key people. And basically, last year he did it at the Runway, and he invited a certain amount of people to participate in like the singing and music part and to see how this is promoted. But that's what it is like a group of musicians who are raising money for foundations and It's just amazing. So now it's at the Rhinebeck what is it? The Rhinebeck Theater, right?
Yeah, Center of Performing Arts at
Center
Rhinebeck.
for Performing Arts. And basically, it's going to be huge. Like, I am so excited to be there to watch this collaboration. If you could imagine all of these great people that you see in the Hudson Valley performing at the local bars and venues all in one room. It's going to be amazing. The tickets are like $25. It's not even a lot of money. So like if you need a ticket to go, you can even go to our website, jameswarriors.org. We are selling tickets for that event under the Lifted Project or on our social media pages on Facebook or Instagram. But this is going to be one of those things. It's going to be a music experience. And the great part is being in there, listening and seeing how this is being done. And then they're giving to 4 charities. We're just one of them. It's amazing work. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is great. The work that John was able to do last year, I know Karen Catalano was a huge part of it as well in the organization of it all. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. We're talking with her as well. So we got all that. So yeah, no, they're doing fantastic things. So again, that's happening in the beginning of April. I believe that's the first Sunday in April.
It's the 6th, Sunday the 6th.
6th. All right. So yes, that's Sunday the 6th. We'll have the links and information for that in the description of this episode. Really excited for the Lifted Project, year 2, of course. I'm excited to be a part of it again, singing, and I'm excited for everything that's going on with it. Let's keep moving on through the year. After the Lifted Project, a couple months later, you guys have a charity event at the Saratoga Racetrack in July. My friends, our shared friends, Joey Cavacini, that's Dawn's son, by the way,
yes.
Right? And his girlfriend, Isabella, yes. Who I've done plenty of work with Impact PR and Communications, one of our sponsors.
Love
and so good. And they were both telling me, it's like, Connor, you got to make it out to this. It's like, when is it? I would love to come out. So tell me about this racetrack experience there in Saratoga.
So much fun. So basically, we are at the 1863 Club at the Saratoga Racetrack in Saratoga Springs, New York. We're in like a private room. You have your own bedding. You're right on the rail, air conditioned, full buffet. And for James's Warriors, we have things like the best hat contest, which I love it. I just absolutely love it. You could probably go to our website and see a couple of pictures are on last year in July on Facebook. But like everyone comes with like these big hats and makes a big deal of it. We have lots of raffles for golf and wine baskets of cheer and all that. It's just a really fun day. And it's again, an experience in life, right? It's very nostalgic to be at the racetrack, which has been there for a long time. I tell people, like I have friends that come from Long Island, they stay for the whole weekend. So they're able to do the shopping in town and go to the great restaurants. There's lots of hiking in Saratoga. So it's just like a fabulous fun day. It goes by in 2 seconds because you're having so much fun. We're bringing awareness, to James's Warriors, and we're raising money. People don't realize though, we don't have any salary employees. There's costs, costs for everything, for everything. Every time I open the email, I'm like, Google sending me another bill? What is this for? There's just so much with expenses and us giving back to the kids with coping kits and all of that. We don't want to ever charge, any kid for anything and t-shirts because they love them. So it's a really, really fun day. I hope you can make it and wear a great hat.
No, I think that sounds great. I will have to check on the dates again. But that is July 13th that you're having this. It's up in Saratoga. I love it. My girlfriend's from the Clifton Park area. So
yes.
I've been to Clifton Park. I've been to Saratoga. And also I went to school up in Albany. So I used to play up in Saratoga too when I was in college. Half a decade ago. So fun. A lot of fun. I love going during the Christmas season. It's so well done up during that time. It's beautiful. But of course, the races, so good. Can't wait to check that out. So let's fast forward again. We pretty much covered the spring, the summer. Now it's time to cover the fall. You guys are having your 2nd annual James's Warriors Music Festival happening on October 4th. It's going to be at Schlados Park in Wappingers again. I was lucky enough to perform last year. Thank you again for having me.
Of course.
It was such a fun time. Great amount of musicians, great amount of talent, and just the amount of support that you had. So do you want to tell us about the music festival, what it was like last year and what we're looking at for this year? I know it's still February, but October is going to come in no time.
Well, it does seem like that. The minute the warmer months go, it's like, bam, October. So here's the thing. We always laugh about this because Dawn and I have like different personalities, right? I'm definitely the racetrack girl with the big hat and maybe a glass of bubbly. Fun for me, right? Dawn is the ultimate rocker. She, big hair. Yes, absolutely. So we always, and John always says this too, we try to think of events that multiple different types of people, like maybe the racetrack thing is not for you, but the music fest is, right? And so it gives people an opportunity to come to our events and things that they would like to do. So Dawn organized this music fest. We thought it was great. We had, I believe, 6 bands last year. It starts from 11 o'clock in the morning till I think 9 o'clock at night or 9:15. And it was amazing just having people in and out. We did have raffles for things. We had food trucks. We had a henna woman doing henna, tattoos for the kids. It was just a great day. And again, we love when the community comes out, but the best part of the day, I'm going to say, and it like brought a tear to my eye, was when some of the kids from like Watt Junior and Ketchum High School, because you could walk, in there, when they, a bunch of different kids came with their James Warriors shirts, like that's how you're making an impact, right? Like that's how because it's the kids who really bring that home. So such a great time. We decided to do it in October because normally in October we used to run car shows because Jean died in October. So like to kind of keep me focused on something positive. And we realized last year it was quite hot in August.
It was a warm day. It was a very warm day.
I mean, God bless. We always, Dawn and I will say, like, we pray to James, please give us good weather, give us good weather. So it was good weather. It was a summer's day. So we're going to try the October thing, make it a little cooler. Everyone can wear the jean jackets and all that. And, we love, our music fest is called, instead of No One Walks Alone, it's called No One Rocks Alone. So,
yes.
And we're, again, grateful to all of the bands that come out and perform for they donate their time, which is amazing. So we are big love.
Absolutely. I think honestly, the whole mantra of this episode is community. And everything that you're talking about, from the podcast, going to the schools, the Lifted Project, the Saratoga Racetrack, the No One Rocks Alone, all of this is so community driven, and it's so beautiful. In the 5 years, celebrating 5 years, been able to create this community out of something unfortunately so tragic, really able to rise from the ashes and create something so beautiful in a place of love. So with that, we're wrapping up this episode now. Again, Donna, thank you so much for being here. What would you say to the community, those that you have with you, but those who we have yet to bring in, but we're welcoming in? What do you say to the community right now?
So here's what I say. When somebody dies by suicide, people just think that their family is affected, but actually it affects a lot of people in the community. James's friends were affected. My family was affected, his teachers, right? His baseball coaches, the community in itself dealing with that kind of loss. One person dying by suicide affects the community, right? And so how do you heal this? You heal it by bringing the community together. So anyone who's listening now and says, because it's hard for us to get like sponsorships because nobody wants to be associated with suicide. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? Like, who's James's words? Oh, that her son died, right? It's kind of sad, right? It's not kind of, it is, right? It's devastating. But we're always looking for people to help us out to carry out our mission. And I feel like we're a pretty welcoming group. I'm like, unless when me and Dawn are fighting at events because we're stressed out. But we tell all the kids like, hey, you need community service hours, you should come. It's a lot of fun, right? We even do that. We have the kids who need community service hours for graduation come out. So community-based means healing for the community as well, not just for me. And prevention is so important for the community. And we are always looking for people to volunteer, to help us. You want to sponsor a table at the racetrack, but you can't come, that's okay. We'll find people to sit at your seats. We need those funds to help us with our mission. And anybody who wants to be involved, literally, you can email us at info@jameswarriors.org, or, my number is really easy to get.
Beautiful. And that kind of leads us. How can people follow along with James's Warriors? As you said, jameswarriors.org. You can send the email. Where can they find you on social media now?
Yep, we're on Instagram and Facebook, and so you can find us there as well. But the easiest, even if you go to jameswarriors.org, there's a contact form. You have a question for us, you just hit that button, and we will get back to you right away.
Fantastic. And of course, the links and information will be in the description of this episode, so you don't have to go too far. Donna, thank you so much for being on this episode. It's always a joy having you. I love your energy, and I love the stuff that you and James's Warriors is doing. So I can't wait to see you at the next event. It's going to be great.
Thank you so much. And again, I know you're going to be very successful, and I'm so happy for this new endeavor you have. And namaste. Thank you.
I'm Connor.
I'm Donna.
And as always, we're glad we get to
spend some time.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode. Big thank you to this week's guests, Cat Ridgeway and Donna Thomas. And of course, big thank you to Impact PR and Communications, Teespring, Walsh Valuation, and IABO Board 114. Last but certainly not least, we got to give a big shout out to our Patreon member, Jenna Hess. But you know what? She's getting a little lonely. So how about you keep her company on the Walsh Wednesday Patreon? You can support this channel by becoming a Patreon member with memberships as low as $5 a month. With that, you can get behind-the-scenes content, your name featured in the credits of each episode, and access to the Spend Some Time chat. You can find that and more by scanning the QR code on your screen or by going to the links in the description. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and I'm glad we get to spend some time.